So I want to do this. We talk a little bit about redistricting, Matt, but I really want this is an audience of people who are doing stuff in the communities. You've met a few people, and people are inevitably a little disappointed in Democrats, quote unquote. And I keep saying, well, we have to do. This is a group of advocacy, and I wish you'd talk a little bit about how important that is, like how you get the attention of lawmakers, like so people aren't afraid to actually engage or indulge, and then someone like Miss Josephine right here, who every time there's an election in Maryland, she gets souls to the polls, she delivers, but yet the politicians never like invest in her operation, so she sells funds. It doesn't seem to be that's fair, and that maybe we're not approaching this in the right way. So that is the focus of this conversation.
That's an absolutely reasonable thing to be concerned about, and I guess I'll start with the temptation to argue the perfect against the good. The Democratic Party and most Democratic elected officials are far from perfect, and there's an extraordinary capacity to disappoint. But that being said, it doesn't mean you shouldn't keep demanding, and I think the most important thing is to go into those meetings and be prepared with what it is you're bringing. Think of it like a business. If you're going in and you're trying to get somebody to invest in your business, you've got to show that, first of all, that it's going to deliver for them, that there'll be a return on it. And so that means votes in most cases. So if you just go in with advocating the righteousness of your project, they'll nod and agree with you, but they'll think you're going to do it anyway. What you have to do is demonstrate that you're going to deliver a vote they can't get on their own. And don't assume that they know. Don't assume that they know how important base vote is, particularly African American vote. The black vote is foundational to almost every marginal district that Democrats hold. And I show this to candidates all the time, that they'll be in a district that's maybe the citizen voting age black population would just say it's 20%. And that and if the percentage of the African American vote is at 18%, which is pretty good, and they're getting 90% of that vote, which is almost always the case, well, I show them, well, let me tell you what happens if that participation drops to 16%. You can't make that up with the Republicans or the marginal vote you're getting from somebody else. Or if that support level drops from 90% to 75%. Now then also, let me show you what happens if you can actually get it from 18% up to the 20% that reflecting the citizen voting age population. Then suddenly you are winning, and you're winning because of the marginal difference of African American vote. You'd be surprised how many politicians have won many races and they have no idea. They have no idea. They may know that they have a really good black supporter who's active in this community or is a minister in this church, but they aren't really doing the math. And so I think sometimes you have to do the math for them. And remember, it's just arithmetic. It's not algebra, or geometry, or trigonometry. It's 1 + 1 = 2. And but you'd be surprised again how many. Maybe their consultants know it. Maybe they don't. The other thing is with a lot of Democrats that are in safe districts, that while they may not, they know that they get reelected, but they don't understand how much more power they would have if not only they weren't just getting elected, but they were delivering to their colleagues or to statewide Democrats or others another 20,000, 30,000 votes that come from the black community. That then makes them powerful and them effective. And so I think sometimes, even if you're talking to somebody who is in a safe district and you know they're going to get reelected, you can demonstrate to them how you can increase their clout and make them more powerful, not just for your organization, but for themselves.
So can you, using Texas as an example, can you talk about the safe district part, like what that looks like if African-American elected officials maximize their turnout?
Well, again, it's just arithmetic. And Texas is a majority-minority state. Whites make up about 40% of the population, and African-Americans make up about 14% of the citizen voting age population. Even though Texas has more African-Americans than any other state, it's we have over 30 million people. And so, the way the Republicans have drawn the district, even though Anglos only make up 40% of the population, right now you've got a state in which out of 38 districts, Republicans would control 30 of them. And but that means that there's about 6 districts that they're cut pretty thin for Republicans. And so, you take the argument into Hakeem Jeffries at the House of Representatives or to Del Bene at the DCCC, and you show them that in Dallas, there's a district in which if you had the African American citizen voting age population there in that district, that's about 11%. If it votes at 12% and it votes 95% for a Democrat, it's suddenly a district that had about a 6-point Republican advantage suddenly is right on the edge. You've got a chance to win it. And it's similar with Latino votes in Texas too, but particularly in the North Texas region and the Houston region, you can win close districts. There's in Dallas-Fort Worth alone, there's at least 3 state house districts where if African Americans just voted their strength in a regular general election, you could flip it from a Republican to a Democrat. And again, it's not all about being partisan. It's about whether or not things are going to be done for people in need, and whether you'll have investments in financial services and things like that will really change policy.
How do you? I mean, given you know this, it seems like everyone would know this. How would someone like Josephines in the world who are doing stuff? How do they get that person's attention, or how do they make that How do they make that work?
Well, I think, first of all, and it's easier said than done. You've got to have somebody to help you crunch the numbers and do that. You know them instinctively, I know, because you know your community. But somebody who is actually talk about what in the jurisdiction you're looking at, what is the makeup of the vote, and how, if you didn't do what you do, what would happen? Because I don't know how long you've been doing it, Josephine. But my guess is they just kind of bake that into that happens like it happens on its own.
Right. I have a question. Yeah, what I do, and actually this president that's sitting there, he must have been trailing me or following me because he took my advice. He went to the barbershop. What I do is around election time, maybe a month before, whatever, I have these shirts that say "Soles to the Pole," SOLES. With a big huge print on the shirt. And I go to local turnout areas, to the shopping centers, the grocery stores, we do on the weekend, the barber shops, the hair salons, because these areas, people are coming to buy groceries. So you're going to catch a lot of people in these shopping centers. Then I go to the malls, and at the malls in the low-voter turnout areas, see, first you have to get to demography about where does it actually happen, where the non-voters, and so we find those areas and go there. But here's the thing: in order for any of those candidates, our elected officials, to give me a grant or anything like that, I have to have a 501c3, right? And see, I don't have a 501c3 like this. Maybe I need to get one.
Well, here's my advice, frankly, is that you can do that. Look, you're a political operation. I haven't give you political money. That way you can say, vote for that name, or you can say, vote for Democrats. I think that's one of the other things that we should use 501c3 money for advocacy, for talking about the issues that we care about and targeting that to the voters that we want and to the politicians we want. But when it's elections, we're better served when we use electoral money to talk about elections. And I think one of the things that Democrats try to skimp on is think, well, let's just give non-political money to the black community. Well, it immediately ties your hands behind your back, because you can't then go out there and say you're for this candidate and say that so that candidate doesn't know what you're doing for them. And so my first advice is don't turn down 501c3 money, but advocate for hard political money, because you're doing hard political work.
So and that can go through any kind of operation. It doesn't have to be. It can go directly to her. It doesn't have to be a C4 or anything. It can go straight to.
Well,
I have an LLC.
yeah, absolutely.
So in the LLC, I Center, which is on the same line.
So she could take hard dollars.
Yeah,
there.
that's how they pay their pollster. That's how they pay their mail vendor. And let me tell you, you're providing services just like them. And I think that's the thing to do, is to make sure that when they're putting together their campaign team, they see that the people are going and advocating person to person, the most valuable type of political communication, that that person is part of their political team. It's not their doing goodwill in the community.
Yeah, because
And I want them to do goodwill in the community. Don't get me wrong, but you're helping people get elected.
oh yeah, well, you know, that's
Yeah.
I gotta get them to the polls.
Yeah.
That's what I'm basically trying to do. Now, if I had someone that was contributing and say, would you pass out my flyer while you're out here, then I think maybe they should be giving me something. Because
Absolutely.
You want me to tell these voters that I'm, convincing to go to the polls to vote for you. What is it? What is in it for me?
They're not asking their pollster, well, I know you're going to poll for somebody else. Will you throw this question on for me? They're not doing that. They're paying a pollster.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to kind of work the other side too here. Again, it's not arguing the perfect against the good. I think that it is important that we know that the alternative to electing some of these candidates is really bad. We're seeing what happens, what's happening in the White House. We're seeing it happen in the legislative district. When you elect people, and a party now that pretty much has hardwired, has ingrained discrimination into the existence of their party. They don't see themselves as being able to hold power unless they systematically undermine the voting rights of African Americans, Hispanics, and other minorities. And so, if you're going to cut slack, cut it to the Democratic candidates. And I know this is a nonpartisan affair, but at the same time, I believe that it is in the benefit of our Democratic candidates to understand the importance of the on the ground relational importance of particularly black leaders talking to black voters. They instinctively understand it when they're talking about votes at the Chamber of Commerce. They know if they got a business owner talking to other business owners, it helps them. That same natural inclination should be there when they're talking about people in the black community.
Right.
So, go ahead.
One thing I find about when I go into the communities where the low voter turnout areas, I find that the people vote by sight, not by knowledge. So one of the things that we are trying to do is teach them about, if you're unhappy with things, this is because you did not learn what this person's platform was, what this person's agenda was. So let us tell you about this person's agenda, why they're different. If you still keep voting the same way, you will keep getting the same thing.
Yep.
So you need to change. And so this is the message that I take out to them. Now, some areas I go in, some people ask me if I want to ooze it. I was like, no, I'm going down. I'm taking the rings off. I'm not going down there. I'm just going down.
Yeah.
But those people, and that's how they feel like. I'm not going to vote because my vote don't count. And so that's something that has to happen in the African American community. We have got to strengthen and educate our people on the importance of them voting and how they need to know the candidate they are voting for.
I think that's so important. And let me tell you, it's not just with people who are in poor communities or it's middle class communities. I mean, if you look at what Trump did and what Elon Musk did with Doge, it was disproportionately affected black professionals working for the federal government. As much as 25% of the African American woman workforce was either laid off entirely or lost a paycheck during the Doge thing, far beyond its representation in the federal workforce. All of that's disproportionately working against African Americans and Hispanics, and so that's why it really does make a difference as to which party is in control. Says Democrats have an unfillable capacity to disappoint, but Republicans are hostile to the very idea of voting rights and of equal representation.
So one of the things as we talk about that, the power to disappoint, and as we like, there's lots of issues we're talking about here, like government contract things where you would think like we have a tax bill that we've been promoting. You'd think it'd be easy to get Democrats on it, but it somehow the sentiments that they take for granted are like they don't respect our opinion, and that seems to be. Because quite frankly, you take one politician who won't necessarily sign on to our tax bill, but they'll sign on for all kinds of crazy things for other people. Like it's like we are not getting the leverage of our vote or our support.
I don't want to pretend I know more than I know, but here's my sense of something like that: is that first of all, they don't know that it's more broadly popular than just you're advocating for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that it really calls for some real investment in advocacy, so that they know they need to hear from somebody other than you. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when you find out that there's for some type of trade advantage for some group, it's because somebody in their district made an appointment to come see them in their district, and they talked to them about it, and then they heard about it from the top. So it's more of a bottom up, even though it's a manufactured bottom up. Mm-hmm. It's important that they hear from people at the grassroots. So there's and sometimes it's just a matter of investing in some polling to show them that you may think that this is too far to the left in order to be practical, or you're going to have the local chamber of commerce beat up on you. Well, so what? It's more popular in your district, and you'll have some protection. So I think sometimes it's a matter of being armed with some information, which oftentimes they see from other people. Gotcha. Particularly, the defense industry and the energy industry, have. They have a lot of money to do that. So I think you have to be strategic as to who you go see, but also I think it is worth for people who invest in what you do and others do. Others do that. They know that part of the road to being successful is investing in your own advocacy. That you can't you have to come in with something armed more than your good opinion and good intentions.
What do you think is the Democratic brand is struggling? I mean, this is why we have this conversation. Like yep. And so we're not an aberration in terms of people being disappointed. Where do you think they go? I mean, because it's clearly. Whether you vote, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, at the end of the day, the American people are so unhappy. There's something systemically wrong, and how do we get the politicians to do a better job? Because they seem to have a tin ear to what's going on in the country.
I think Democrats suffer from two things right now, and I think this is what's driving the low opinion of Democrats more than anything else. It's that they see us as incapable of winning. Nobody likes to support the party that loses, and we did some focus groups in Texas with unaligned voters, but not that include both black voters. And I say unaligned; they used to call them persuadable or independent voters, but African American, Anglo, and Hispanic. The one constant complaint about Democrats is, I agree with you guys on a lot of issues, but you're going to lose here in Texas. You're just going to lose. And the thing that suppresses vote more than anything else is the certainty of losing. And so I think it's important to pick some things out and win them so that shows that you're winners. That's why I think if we win this election, these midterms, I think that you'll see the attitude about the parties change. But also, though, you got to have deliverables. It's what I call me issues. And we asked voters that pretend that there's an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. What are they saying to you when you go in and vote? And they said, well, I kind of get where you're going here. You're saying that the angel is the Democrat and the devil is the Republican, but what the angel is telling me is that, you need to do what's good for the world, and you need to, make sure the environment is good and all of that stuff, and I know and I agree with that. But the other shoulder is telling me that I need to make my car payment, I need to buy a house payment. And Democrats need to talk in that ear. They don't have to be the devil, but they need to talk about me issues and think about things when we talk about it from the person out to their family, out to their community, not the other way.
So I have a question there. With the economy and the way the country has been going in the last year, there's been a lot of them that have lost their car. The car payment's not going to be made. The house payment's not going to be made. So I would think that things are going to change, even in Texas, because I would think even in Texas, they're not blind. They can see what is happening with our economy and what is happening with our country. So wouldn't you think that would make a difference even with the independent voter?
I'm very encouraged by this year because I think you're exactly right. People see what's happening. They hear what Trump's saying and they see what's happening. They know when they're going in the grocery store. And there are people who are making $100,000, $150,000 a year, and they're not able to make their house payments and their car payments because they can't get health insurance. And so they aren't blaming Democrats for that. They're blaming Republicans. If anything else, Trump has demonstrated that Republicans are large and in charge right now. So I think it helps Democrats by default. We need to not just take the default. We need to be ready when we get in the majority to do things to consolidate that power. The way you consolidate that power is to deliver for people.
Right. And the fact that the other thing, the cows, now Texas, that's their commodity, right? Cows. Now I understand he's going to import beef from where? Argentina.
You must be reading my newsletter that you got Trump attacking cattle raisers in Texas.
Yes.
I mean, now there's a New Yorker for you, and so it gives us an opportunity in the agricultural industry in Texas we haven't had for a long time, and we have an important Senate race in Texas. We have two good candidates, Anglo man and African American woman. They're both excellent candidates. I'm fine with either one. It's a little bit different path with each one, but the thing that benefits us most is how terrible the Republican is.
Well, Matt, we talk about you were chief of staff on the Hill for many years, and you've done this. What's the best way? We're going to have a panel next on lobbying, but you said people need to go in with their information, but how do community groups we've got. You talked to the Virginia people. We've got people in New Jersey. Everyone's engaged with their new governors. How do we get that? How do they make the most of these opportunities given this tough time? And the fact that people are seem to be vacillating between whether they're too liberal or too moderate, and what that means for African Americans, especially business people and others.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the rhetoric between liberal and moderate. It's always been better to be identified as a moderate. Everybody believes in winning from the middle out rather than the left back to the middle or the right back to the middle. I wouldn't worry about that rhetoric, but I would worry about the substance of what they do. And I think it's important to go into those meetings with two things. One is somebody local or something local that something that they know about and care about. There's somebody from a neighborhood that they care about. The second thing is for them to know the marginal difference in your support, that they instinctively know that I won a race that I would have lost if I hadn't gotten, another 5% of the swing vote or whatever. That's maybe true. They also need to know, well, what would have happened if you'd have had 5% less support from the black community? Yeah. Or what if blacks had made up 2% less of the total turnout? They need to know that marginal win comes from the base too, and that they can't take that base for granted, and they don't intentionally take it for granted. It's just, you take for granted when you walk into the house and turn the faucet, the water's going to come out. They need to know that if they turn that faucet, that water might not come out.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're out of time, Matt, and thank you for doing this. Anybody have any questions? Can I answer a few questions? Are there any more questions? Okay. If not, Matt, thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all for helping Kevin. He's doing great work. And thank you all for what y'all are doing. Thanks.
All right. Let's go Texas.